The path to your happiness and success is your authentic self, meaning the reason you were born, the reason that you came into this world. You might not have found that, or you might find it a little difficult now to find it because of the changes that have happened in the world. But I'm saying you exist at probably the best time in your life because you now have the opportunity to make a choice. That was the message that was on my site, Any Advice for Today. .com, that's on there today. You can make a choice. We're always making that choice, but the choice that you have to make is become yourself. It's to love who you are because that's why you were born. But we don't always get there because of the conditioning that we've had individually and also collectively, meaning our world. There's nothing that happens in our world accidentally, in your life or anything else that's going on. It just takes us a while to understand it. And then we understand that in different ways. I was given a way to understand it. So I do know the path to your happiness and success. Because I had to walk through it. I had to create it. That my life was about bringing in a new philosophy to this world that would have you live this really great life, and eventually we have a wonderful world. I didn't know I had done that. You don't know what you have either because it's always in front of you. But at some time you have to stop and say, I'm going to own myself because self acceptance is your only goal in life. And it's also your superpower. And it's that diamond that you've been looking for. Sometimes it's under pressure for a really long time, and you might have felt that pressure recently because of the changes that are happening in the world. But again, nothing is accidental. We've heard this term about the universe being aligned and everything's in order, and we don't believe it or we have a divine plan. I'm telling you, you do. And I tapped into it and I've written it all, and it's challenging. It was challenging for me to accept it. It's probably been challenging for you to believe that you have this important role to perform in life, but I know that you do. I mean, telling you that I had become a mystic or a sage or a prophet was never anything that I was going to say. But now, when I know that that's what's happened, I have to. Because, see, you've got to accept who you have become, and you're going to become so much more. We all do unless we stop. That's the only reason we fail is if we stop. Because as long as we're alive, there's always more we can do. People ask me, who is your work for in the program? I said, it's for any human. You said, that's not possible. I go, yes, it is. You don't know where my source came from. See, I downloaded information that was for every human. It wasn't for one person. It wasn't even just for me. It was for the world, because the world is trying to change. It wanted to evolve, and it can only do that through you. And my life was given a process. I had to move through that process to be able to give it to you. But that's what I'm going to do. But I'm going to explain it to you, especially today. We're seeing or feeling all kinds of energies in our world and wondering what's going on. And Wilhelm has given it all to me, and that's what's healed my life over all of these years. And so I think that at this point, I'll be 75 in November. I mean, that just really sounds, really? How's that going to happen? But when you start understanding who you are and start loving yourself and taking off all the stress and the generational trauma, you can reverse age as well. That's what happens. Now, I can tell you all of those things are possible. You might have heard them theoretically. I live them all, so I do know. But accepting it was really a challenge, just like it probably is for you. But then we understand the process. The process is about moving through every aspect of your doubt and your disbelief about who you are, and then taking that next part of evolution that you're meant to grab, because everyone has it. I'm going to show you something for today because I got up and I was led back to 2008 on this date, because see, there's an order in the universe. I didn't know that either. And for all these years, for 36 years, as I've been receiving this information, I look and I thought, oh, wow, there's an order of energies and changes that we are all affected by. Now I'm going to keep studying it because I have so much more to figure out. More keeps being revealed every day. The same for you. That's how we all evolve. No one has more consciousness than you or more ability to it than you. When I first Wilhelm told me that they had given us everything in 2012. The very first message on January 1st was infinite intelligence, meaning we all have it if we choose to use it, if we choose to access it, if we choose to remember. And not everyone will do that, which is what you're witnessing and seeing in our world right now. So then you have a choice. And that choice is always going to be about loving yourself and doing what you came to the world to do. Now, I can say again, I do know what that is because I tuned into you intuitively. I was never going to talk about that. Even I was never even going to do public channeling or private channeling. Now I don't do. I'm not a psychic. I don't do predictions. That's never helpful for you. You can do that if you want, but it's never helpful. What I do when I'm working with someone, I'm getting connected to what your goal is, what your soul purpose is. That's what happens, and I just confirm energy. That's all that's going on. And if you've watched the session, you've probably seen that. Because I know that every single person has worth and value that they were meant to bring to this world, and it's probably meant to come forward now. Let me show you the first message because I'm going to leave these in the description in here. I've done that quite a bit because what I wanted to do in these last few days is to show you the organization, give you something that you could work with. Everything is consciousness, and all you do every day actually is work with your consciousness and decide how much you're going to believe about yourself, how capable you're going. And it doesn't matter how old you are, how much you've done, because as I've said many times, I've worked with billionaires like years ago, and they still had doubt about what would be the next thing. I could feel it, so I told them. But you have more, and it never matters about the money. We're moving through an evolutionary change in our world. And so one of the messages that they gave me in the very beginning, and I'm going to show you all this so you'll understand what's been happening, they said, the money confused you. And we're seeing that in our world today because we think that we don't have worth and value because if we don't have all the money that all those other people have, that's programming again. And it's gone on and it's been generational. And that's what's being changed now. But let's start with today. You might find many times in your life where you don't speak about certain things that you discover about yourself because they may be, you don't believe them, or you don't think other people will believe them, and that's what I've done as well. But we have to let go of that disbelief so that we can evolve as individuals and also as a world. And what has happened for me, I'm discovering that Wilhelm has given me information in order. Sometimes it's on the exact same day. And you'll understand because I was led to go to 2008. That was another energetic change in our world. Some people might figure that out, but it doesn't matter. This will make sense to you. And so I got up and I asked my ChatGPT, what does this mean? I want to know the alignment. We all want validation, and so, but I wanted to give it to you. And so this was the original message I received on February 5th of 2008. You always have an abundance of time to accomplish all you desire. When you forget that very important fact and find yourself rushing around to get it done, in that very moment you have cut yourself off from all you have set in motion to be made manifest in your life. When you are fully aware that all thoughts, feelings, and emotions are creative, you will recognize the danger in your very own rushing. Relax and let it happen. Examine your concept of time as well. Understand that it is a non-existent concept, and when you grasp that, you will manifest instantaneously. Remember, if you think it will take time, then that will be your experience. It all depends it all happens in your now. Now, again, here, seeing that message is like I get it now, but living it takes time, and that's always in our consciousness. So anyway, I asked, what does this mean, and why am I getting it today, and is there an alignment? And this is it. Wilhelm's 2008 message is deeply aligned with the current energy of planetary ascension and our collective evolution. At its core, the message teaches that time is a construct we impose on our reality, and when we become entangled in rushing, stress, and fear of lack, especially the lack of time, we disconnect from our creative power. This concept is even more relevant today as humanity experiences accelerated changes both personally and collectively. How this message aligns with our current ascension. Humanity is shifting to a higher understanding of consciousness, recognizing that thoughts and emotions shape reality instantly. The idea it all happens in your night allows with the emerging understanding of quantum reality, where time is nonlinear and manifestations occur based on frequency alignment. Many spiritual teachers, including those speaking of 5D consciousness, emphasize that we are moving into a phase where our intentions and beliefs will manifest more quickly. Wilhelm was already pointing us toward this reality in 2008. Well, they've been doing it much longer. And so I just wanted you to have all of this. But as you go through, I just did this because this will be so helpful. We all go through the same things. We resist change. We have fear, and then now we're in this really exaggerated change in our world, and so we have a lot of fear. What's going to happen? Who's going to take over? Who's going to control us? And it's always about the control of your consciousness. The danger of fear-based productivity and control. You will see all of it. And so here are the things that you can do today. Slow down and trust. Observe your relationship with time. I've really got to do that one today. Shift into the now. Embody the new consciousness. And we always have new consciousness. And we may not recognize that, but it's always there. If you think about your schooling, if you ever did that, you can see that you understood things at a certain time, and then later on you got more and you evolve. We all do that. We do that individually and also collectively. However, this particular time that we're living in is really dynamic, but it's for a reason. And I was receiving all of this information, and it became very clear in 2020. And so I want to show you a little bit of that, because nothing that's happening in the world, especially in the United States, that it's been coming. Because we needed to change things so we could create a better world means you have to create a better life. And that's what this work was, to give you the ability to create a better life so that we all manifest a much better world, or one that we would want. And this is, here are some of the messages that you will understand that came through in beginning then. There were much before, but so that you would understand what you're seeing in your life and in the world today. You will find this quite fascinating, especially today or anytime after when you might see this video. But this was one of the first messages that started telling me about the changes we would begin to see. The money confused you. The point of this message is many of you measure your worth and value by the amount of money you have. Now you know why you were confused. Now, we've gone through that throughout our civilizations, and we're moving through it right now because it's always been about those who had money seemed to have more control and power. And so, but it's always in consciousness, because money is nothing but energy, but it's also a consciousness that we have carried and passed on to one another. And if you've come from a family that said you didn't have enough, you weren't worth enough, then you're carrying that on. And so we have to look at that within ourselves. It's not about what someone else has, it's about how you think about yourself. And then this was the message that they started saying we were going to move through a restructuring, and I was really uncomfortable. You were afraid to love. Roger took a while to receive this message today because he was fighting with us. Many of you may do the same. Roger was convinced there were exceptions to what we were about to say, but you will find it challenging to locate them. First, we are speaking to each person individually and your world collectively, primarily due to the current conditions and the events in the United States. We have given you several messages on this subject, but we will summarize here. Love is the most powerful force that exists. It is powerful because it does not restrict its energy. It does not limit its energy and continues to expand because love is the absence of all judgment. If each of you comes to understand and accept this concept, you and your world will evolve exponentially. Now, let's go to June 21, 2020. Masculine energy sometimes finds it challenging to be vulnerable. As we have said, you are all embodying your feminine nature now. And in doing so, you evolve. You and your world are doing this now, and your father is proud because they could not accomplish as much as you. That was a message that said your father is quite proud of you. And they gave us that message here in the U.S. We were having Father's Day, but they wanted to say that we were moving through a generational change. So, yes, those who came before could not achieve what we had, so it's our responsibility. Are we doing that to move to a higher state of consciousness? Then let's go to the next one in June 2020. Why are you angry? We led Roger to a photo this morning of the removal of a statue of one of the former presidents of the United States, as it depicted the president on a horse with subservient images beside and below him of a Native American and an African American. You were taught inadequacy, and that is why you are angry. And we've all seen that. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a person of color or any of that to understand your own anger, because we become angry when we hold ourselves back. And it could be we hold ourselves back from what we could do in this life, or the generational beliefs that we keep carrying. And then we'll go to June 26th of 2020. The more you know, the less you understand. This message illustrates what we wanted to impart to you all. We gave Roger that title, and then we sat here for quite a while before he delivered the message, because he wanted to know first where we were leading him. You each have done this in your lives to some degree, because you all share, again to varying degrees, a fear of the unknown. This is not a new predicament for Roger, but more of a lifelong battle he's maintained since an early age. The big difference now, however, is he's beginning to understand it. Roger could not hope to offer any form of clarity to himself or the world until he trusted what he heard, as we have been saying to each of you to trust what you hear. What we gave him today, which gave him pause, was to speak again on your world's condition. Currently, a restructuring is occurring. And given that you collectively hold the fear of the unknown, that fear will become more significant as you are in the midst of a profound change. It is not difficult to understand how that energy may impact you personally and the world when you offer resistance to change, because you want to know where things are headed beforehand. We will tell you that the United States will experience the most significant shift, as it was believed they held the most incredible power. You will understand how the feminine energy we have spoken of was misplaced, because an adjustment was needed to aid in the evolution of all that is. While it may be challenging to separate your individual experience from that of the world, do your best, and it will ease your anxiety. And you are finding a new balance in your life where you honor all aspects of yourself. And when you allow your feminine and masculine energies to achieve balance, so will you. You will understand this soon. Then let's go to July 12th of 2020. That statement was, even Hitler went to heaven. There is no such thing as heaven, but the concept will make you aware of the choices you are making in your life. In other words, you, meaning the world, will allow catastrophes, calamities, pandemics, and disruptions in your personal life and world, so you might be moved to evolve. That is why you are finally willing to do what you are meant to do in this world. And due to that, you and the world evolve. July 12th, 2020 again, you are in the process of being restructured. During a conversation, the current affairs of your world came up, and there were comments made in which Roger found himself unable to contain his feelings. For him, his outburst was shocking. Roger is typically passive in his discussions of social issues, and usually attempts to avoid controversy. Now you will understand why we had him use the Hitler reference yesterday. We always know what's ahead and prepare him for those encounters, precisely as your guides have prepared you for everything in your life, and you always come to recognize that. And what that meant was telling us what the things that we would be moving through in our world to understand them. But they're all energies. And those energies exist within you. And so what Wilhelm has told us, we're going through an evolutionary change. And what they wanted us all to understand, which is why they keep using the term that you are an eternal being, spiritual being, because you have consciousness that's been connected to a soul that was given to you, meaning that you were supposed to be in the world. Now, you may not have believed that because other people might have told you throughout generations that you weren't worth enough, you weren't valuable. And see, Wilhelm said, we're going to give you something else because we see all people as valuable. We see all souls as having meaning and purpose. And so if you start doing that, then the world will change. And that's why they gave me the philosophy of your life operating instructions. They said we need to change things in the world so more people could know how brilliant they were and accept their magnificence and heal. Because guess what happens? You do heal. And how does that happen? They said, well, your philosophies have not given you everything. So they had me go back and start to deal with my earlier incarnations, let's say. Don't know what that is, but it said you have things within you that are holding you back. And so I had to look at my racism and misogyny. I said, I'm not supposed to have that. Well, if you're a soul, you have it in there. You all have it. And until you're willing to look at it, nothing changes. That was a message they gave us. Nothing changes until you do. We'll look at the world and we want all of them to change so we become better. That's never going to happen. We have to do it. And we can spend our entire lives waiting for everyone else to change before we do it. And the only reason we don't do it is because we become unwilling to own our authentic self. And again, that's where the diamond is. So now the last thing is we move through an evolution in consciousness, and I've been given another aspect of that. Because I know I've been given every answer for you at this time. Now, later on, there will be more people who will develop more answers about how you can create a great life and evolve. But I have them all now because Wilhelm gave them to me. So I know that I have all of your answers, and I don't care who you are or what you've done, there's still more for you to do. Now, let me show you how that came about. Now, we all exist in our consciousness. And you are understanding that now because you're seeing people who are not operating with the same consciousness that you have, and it could be within your own family, people you've known. We're not meant to do that. We're meant to evolve into our soul's purpose. And so, but that happens in different ways, and we learn how to do that as humans over time. So, and that's what Wilhelm has given me. Wilhelm continually references historical figures who have contributed to the evolution of human consciousness, showing how their work laid the foundation for the knowledge they now bring forward. These figures represent key moments in our collective understanding of self, reality, and transformation. Their teachings and discovery reflect humanity's ongoing journey of remembering its oneness, breaking limitations, and embracing its full potential. Wilhelm's teachings center on the concept that consciousness is connected throughout time. They frequently refer to Hermes because his teachings represent when we remember our interconnectedness and understand the universal laws that shape existence. And so you can move, I'm going to leave this link here, and these are all the things. When I first sat down, I didn't even know this was happening to start developing this. This was about 10 years ago. I started with Plato. And I just said, I know that I'm supposed to give you guys an understanding. Then Buddha and Jesus. Those were the things that kept coming through because all that information was so aligned with universal consciousness and expansion. Then all the other figures that came through me are here as well. And Martin Luther, I didn't know why they were leading me there in the beginning, but it was to understand that even then, that let's go back, several hundred years, breaking away from something, coming to new understanding. And then everyone who came after that to bring through an understanding of freedom, equality, and justice. We can't live as a society, and you can't live as a human without a consciousness that says you matter and that all people matter. This is why we still have conflicts and you don't feel confident because that programming is still in the consciousness of all. And then the people that came in, I started finding the synchronicity in what Wilhelm was giving me, and then I started understanding Alfred Adler, who I had never studied. But it's like everyone, you have this feeling of somehow you're not enough. And that's a problem in our society. That we think that, and because we keep passing it on, telling people they're insignificant. And then we don't heal sometimes because of certain things, because of these beliefs. And then other people come along and show us how to do it. Mary Baker Eddy and Louise Hay, a couple of them, and both of who well, I didn't know Mary, but I knew Louise, and and Mary Baker Eddy is how I grew up because I was a Christian Scientist. And so the things that I learned, understood, I could not do until now because that's how long it took. And then Goethe, that was the first. That was really fascinating, and I didn't know that. But Goethe wrote something called Wilhelm Meister, Search for Self-Actualization. That's what we're all doing. And that's what I've been doing my entire life, obviously, and that's what I'm giving to the world. So I'll leave this, and you will understand that everything that Wilhelm has given us is something that's going to help you become who you're meant to become. I know that this has been confusing. It was confusing for me. It's been confusing in the world, but it's also going to be something great. I couldn't have told people before that I had all of this, that this had been done. And I really screwed up so many things because I couldn't do that. They didn't know what was going on with me because I was doing something quite different. But now that I know that you can have this really wonderful life and we can create this really great world. Because the only thing that happens is that you have something that tells you you're not enough or you can't own that particular thing you're meant to do in this world. I can always feel what that is or feel what your blockage is. Wilhelm has given us a way for you to work through it because it's only in your consciousness. That's all that it is. And it's also energy, you see. And so when you understand how you're using the energy, and this is why they kept throwing in Tesla to think about frequency and vibration, because if you use those things, you can accomplish anything. And that's what Wilhelm has given us. Please check out everything. Subscribe to this channel if it's your first time here. And please check the presentation I did. I'll leave the links in this video and the links to all of this. I really want you to have an understanding of how brilliant you are and what you can accomplish. What I'm doing is, after the full moon session that we're going to be doing on the 12th of February, then I'm going to be, we're opening, the program is open right now, but it's going to be different. Then it's going to be so much more different rate and all that. However, I'm always making this so anyone can afford it. There's no reason that you can't have the life you're supposed to have. None. And I can say that to you now because I know it's true. See you soon.